Hi guys, it's Amber from Amber Eats Books, and I'm here today to bring you my June wrap up. I know I'm a little late getting this wrap up put up again. It's almost getting to be, mid-July. I should have already had it up by now, but I've just been so busy. I finally had a day to sit down and record some videos. Anyway, I read 5 books in the month of June. That's probably going to be about my average. I may read a few more, obviously, in July because we have a couple of readathons going on and things, but that's been about my average for the last couple of months, between 5 to 7 books, and I feel comfortable at that pace. I'm not overdoing it, but I'm also not, pushing myself to read. I'm reading at a comfortable pace. Some days I don't read at all. Some days I read quite a bit and finish a book in a day or two. But I'm also being able to enjoy other activities such as exercising and watching Netflix and things like that. So I'm trying to find that balance, and I feel like it's working out. Anyway, the first book that I read in June was Down Among the Sticks and Bones by Shauna McGuire. This is book 2 in the Wayward Children series, the first book being Every Heart a Doorway. This follows the origin story of Jack and Jill, how they came to be. They lived in the moors and what that was like, and how we ended up seeing them in Every Heart a Doorway. I really enjoyed this book. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I feel like it had a very different tone than the first book. However, I really enjoyed it. It was so different. It definitely had more of a fairy tale feel to it, even as you were just reading it. But I really loved it, and I cannot wait to get to book 3, which is Beneath the Sugar Sky. The first line in that book was, "People who knew Chester and Serena Wolcott socially would have placed money on the idea that the couple would never choose to have children." The next book I read was The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry. Now guys, I was anticipating this book so much. I wanted to read this for the last year and a half. I finally won it on a Goodreads giveaway, and I have to tell you, I did not enjoy it as much as I wanted to. I gave it 3 stars. I went into this book knowing the plot a little bit. It was about this woman who left her husband and is now looking for this mysterious sea serpent, the Essex serpent. She's kind of trying to figure out what's going on. So I thought this was going to be a little bit more of an adventure sort of story, and really it was much slower paced than I could have ever imagined. There was sections of this book that I really enjoyed, certain scenes, certain things that were said, just little bits and pieces, but as a whole, I felt like the story just didn't come together as well in the second half of the book. I felt like the author was kind of leading up and building up to certain things, and then either wouldn't return back to the point that she was making, or even refer back to something that happened earlier, or she just kind of let it fizzle out in a way that left me very unsatisfied. Like I said, though, there were so many points in the book that I did really enjoy reading, certain moments, that I couldn't give it lower than 3 stars because I felt like the writing in those sections were it was fantastic. But going on and reading the rest of the book as a whole, like I said, it just fell apart for me, and I didn't really enjoy it as much as I was dying to, because I wanted to give it 5 stars, but it just didn't make it there. So I'm glad that I read it. However, I'm not jumping up and down to pick up another book by the author. I definitely will try out another one at some point, but just not on the top of my priority list at the moment. The first line in this book was, "A young man walks down the banks of the Black Water under the full cold moon." And the next book that I read in the month of June was Black Mad Wheel by Josh Malerman. I read Bird Box by Josh Malerman and loved it. It was just one of those books that was just so fast paced, and I was just flying through. Same thing with this. This is the story of a group of musicians who were kind of hired by the military to help seek out the origins of this mysterious sound. And when people hear this sound, they just go crazy and get sick, and it's just not pretty, and a lot of people die. But this one survivor came back. He has full broken bones and everything. So we're kind of following 2 different storylines. We're following what happened before and how his recovery is going after, and what he's trying, what he's sort of remembering and things after, and then they kind of merge at a point. Again, it was so fast paced. Just the ideas of his books are very interesting. The concepts are something that just really grabbed me. I just want to know what's happening, what's going on, and I dive into the book. I will say his endings are a little open-ended. Things happen that are just a little strange, a little weird, and in other books, they would probably annoy me because don't feel like I really get a satisfying conclusion when I read one of his books. However, I just enjoy it so much. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I think I wrote in my Goodreads review, it's more about the journey than it is the destination with his books. I enjoy the journey so much that when I get to the end, because it is sort of left open and it's not just a shut case, it lets you kind of imagine what happened or why this happened or what is going to happen next. So it's not like the story just ends abruptly. It's more like you get to take the ending where you want it to go. I will say the ending of this book was weird. I didn't fully grasp it or understand it. I kind of did end the book a little bit like, what was that? But I'm still constantly thinking about the book, which I think is a fantastic sign. So I just really enjoyed it, and I will read anything else he puts out. I love it. The first line in this book is, "The patient is awake." The next book I listened to as an audiobook, and that is The Wonder by Emma Donoghue. I read Room by Emma Donoghue probably 2 years ago now, and I really enjoyed that one. I will say the child narrator in that kind of threw me off a little bit. I wasn't like fully immersed in that book. This one, I really enjoyed the premise. This is about a nurse who is hired to come take care of a girl who seemingly hasn't eaten for 4 months. She doesn't understand how this girl is living off of no food at all. I think she's taking in very minimal water, if any at all. She doesn't understand what's going on, but every day this girl seems to be getting weaker and weaker, and she's now trying to save this girl's life and trying to figure out, is this really a miracle or is this something else? The premise is fantastic, and I really enjoyed a lot of what I listened to. However, I did feel like it was drawn out just a little too much. So I ended up giving it 3 stars, but I think the overall story was really good, and I kind of guessed what was happening partway through the book, which kind of detracted a little bit. But I was happy to see that what I guessed was actually what happened. So it was a little give and take for that, but I actually ended up, enjoying most of what I listened to, just wishing that she condensed it just a little and just got to the point a little bit faster. The first line in this book was, "The journey was no worse than she expected." And the last book that I read or listened to in the month of June was The Boston Girl by Anita Diamant. This is the story of a woman who is telling her story to her granddaughter. So it literally sounds like a woman relaying her life story to someone. The narrator was fantastic. She did a great job with the accent and everything. I really enjoyed it. The story overall was just fascinating. I just felt like I was in that time period. I really felt like I was listening to someone tell me their story, and I was just enthralled by it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. The first line in this book was, "Ava, sweetheart, if you've asked me to talk about how I got to be the woman I am today, what do you think I'm going to say?" So those are all the books that I read in June. I had a really good reading month, even though I only read 5 books, but to me, that seems like a well-rounded number now. What did you guys read in June? Was there anything that you liked, anything that you didn't like? Let me know down in the comments. Also, if you read any of these books, I would love to discuss them with you, so please use the comments down below. Anyway, I hope you have a great week and happy reading.